Welcome to episode 42 of the Corey Shepherd podcast. Welcome back to everybody who's been listening. Welcome to all the new listeners. Now, some housekeeping before we start. When you get the link from me, right, you'll see all the old episodes there that you could scroll back through, but you'll also see a little tab called Where to Listen. When you click on that Where to Listen tab, you'll see all the places that the podcast is available, and whichever one more convenient to you or the one that you listen to podcast on the most, that is where you could go to subscribe. Thanks for clearing that up for me, because I keep saying subscribe and somebody keep asking me like, where subscribe? So when you see that link, Where to Listen, when you click on that, you'll see all the different places. So if you have an Apple phone, it's easier to use Apple Podcast or Google Podcast for those with Android, all the way down to YouTube where you could subscribe, like, and share. All right, so what is this, episode 42? Yeah, we're 10 short of it's a whole year. 52, making a whole year we doing this? Or maybe I had a couple episodes in the same week. It's starting to feel like forever. We officially back to the point where we were on full lockdown last year, 22nd of March. We're right back around to it. And we're still in pretty much some kind of a lockdown. Because I see the bar owners, we talk about them a lot, but they clamoring now and trying to say, hey, help all of us survive. So I even see Carib Carib, the bars and Carib working hand in hand, right? There's two real stakeholders of each other's business. And Carib was putting out an ad saying basically, hey, go out and support your local bars or your local watering hole, go and buy beers from them. Because we turned to real grocery buyers, you know. Everybody drinking home these days. I see some people say they had a bar crawl. I don't know how a bar crawl is work if you're not supposed to drink. I suppose you stop by each bar and drink in your car or something like that. Song in bar, no matter how you say it. Because by your second bar, if you get breathalyzed, you lock up. But yeah, Carib this thing trying to get people to buy. I like the initiative. I was saying this some time ago where you see our little community businesses, the big businesses, forget the big boys. Like when you're buying food and the bigger restaurants, so everybody know who they are. I think they will be fine after this COVID thing done, you know what I mean? They will still be around and still have their specials and everything and adjust their prices and their staffing and everything to make sure that they survive this pandemic. But we have to keep in mind the smaller businesses, the little restaurants in the area, the people who doing the catering. I was talking last week about, a kitchen TT. I could never remember these people's name. But they were real good at ordering from them, you know what I mean? Create your own little vibe home if you ain't going out to dinner. And just not just the people who on Instagram that you could call and order from, but also the shop in your area. I have a lot of businesses that are not online, that we could go out and spend a little money by and spend a little time by and uplift those businesses so that when this pandemic over, not only we find some other people we could support and get good things from, you know, good products, good food, whatever it might be. But you uplift your own community and you put it in place where the whole community ain't going to be suffering come post-COVID. And you know, every time I say post-COVID, I get vexed myself now because I'm starting to believe that I have no such thing as post-COVID. And I would never be wearing these masks for the rest of my life, boy. I ain't doing it, you know. It done frustrating already. I remember this mask all the time. I just keep and pack a mask in my car just in case, especially with police pulling people over for not wearing masks. It's better I have too many in the car than I end up in the car with somebody and I have no mask. But I don't know if post-COVID is a real thing. I'm starting to believe like this is just it. This is what we're doing. We working from home and there's the new order of the world. Anyway, I mean, before we move from COVID, let me talk about vaccines fast. Because it's the most controversial topic in the country these days. I almost want to say I had neither here nor there on it, you know, because every time I think about my take on these vaccines, is a couple things coming to mind. After everybody vaccinated, we have the belief that we're going to be back to what we knew as normal before. But as I say, I'm starting to doubt that very much because the more you read about vaccines, you're realizing that it's not really stopping the spread of COVID. I think it just allows your body to manage it better. So you still have to be careful now where your older relatives or people who have pre-existing conditions, I guess we still have to be careful and still be, you know, do the right thing and mask and wash hands and all that, I mean. And then the other thing that comes into mind, other than when all of us vaccinated, is that we're really living in a bubble. Trinidad make itself into a bubble very early. As much as I bad talk the doc and them, they protect us from the wrath of COVID, if I could put it that way, because we never saw bodies upon bodies and an overwhelmed healthcare system and an overwhelmed secondary care system, like the quarantine places, everything was more or less under control. Of course, not everybody liking it. Because if you look at any project anybody do or any way anybody manage any situation, I'm sure you could find ways that it could have been done better. And if you're Trinidadian, you probably find you could have do it better too, which is what everybody find about the Prime Minister right now. But the decisions that they make, forget the economics and all those things for a minute. It really insulates us and protects us and shelter us from what COVID really has done in many countries throughout the world. So it making me wonder, like, does that put us at a disadvantage? Let me say that in English. Does that put us at a disadvantage for how we will get vaccines? Because think about this, right? If you're consistently coming up on several lists as the best who managing the virus, your rate of death is relatively, well, I guess it's not low, the rate itself, but the number of deaths is low compared to other countries because they would have had higher incidences of COVID on a whole. So when you get props for managing it, does it also mean that you are less of a priority to get vaccinated? I would think so. So put it this way. If I have 7 billion people in the world, I only have 1 billion vaccines, I would allocate the vaccines or try to make sure that it reached the people who need it the most as a priority. So, of course, they already said healthcare workers, the elderly. But after those things, it probably had to be the countries that had the highest COVID numbers and not the ones that had the lowest COVID numbers. So, I mean, I'm speculating here, but it kind of makes sense to me because if I had to portion vaccines everywhere, you had to send it to the places who need it the most. And we, I mean, sad to say it like this, but we might not need it as much as some other countries need it. Like you'll see Jamaica going into our next full lockdown. Let me read straight from the Observer here. This is what they announced. This is announced by Prime Minister Holness, right? From Tuesday, March 23rd to Friday, March 26th, the nightly curfew hours will remain at 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. and then at 5 a.m. on Saturday, the 27th, right? Here it is now. On Saturday, March 27th, the curfew begins at 12 noon and ends at 5 a.m. on Monday, March 29th. Monday, March 29th, sorry. There should be no movement on Sunday, March 28th. So wait. On Saturday, March 27th, the curfew starts at midday, 12 noon, right? To end at 5 a.m. Monday morning. No movement on the 28th. So I guess they just kind of locked down the whole weekend. That's Easter weekend. Now they're looking like it's the weekend before Easter. So that weekend, they're in a full lockdown. So they have a whole day where nobody can leave home at all. Boy, let me see what else they're saying here. They said as well, from March 29th to Wednesday the 31st, so that's the Monday to the Wednesday, the curfew remains 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. again. On Thursday the 1st of April, that's Holy Thursday now, this is the Easter weekend, workplaces will be required to close at noon except for essential services. The closure gives workers the time to stock up for when the curfew starts. Thursday night at 8. I guess that's Thursday 8 p.m. There should be no movement on Good Friday. Wow. On Saturday, April 3rd, the curfew begins at noon and continues Easter Sunday and Monday to end at 5 a.m. on April 6th. Wow. So on Tuesday, April 6th, curfew will commence at 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. So it seems as though, to break this down, they have their curfew from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. It looked like ongoing during this period of management of COVID. But they're going into some stringent measures on the weekend before Easter and the Easter weekend itself. So on the weekend before Easter, they're locking off midday this Saturday. You ain't coming back out until Monday morning. And then on Easter weekend, Easter weekend now, your lock off time is on Holy Thursday. So from when you go inside Holy Thursday, don't come back out until Saturday. That's number one. You're home. Good Friday, nothing. So you come back out, you have a window Saturday morning. They're not saying exactly what time they open back up Saturday morning. I'd assume it's 5 a.m. to noon again. And then from that noon, inside again until Tuesday morning. Boy, listen, that is rough. That is a rough thing. So I saw some of these celebrities in Jamaica, mostly artists. I saw Tony Matterhorn make a post about it, and he was basically saying, like, he went straight to like bloodshed. So I was confused when I see it. I was like, wait, what are we talking about here? And he basically saying that who don't have money to be able to run by the grocery and stock up. What they gonna do? Who live in day to day? What they gonna do? So, for instance, if a man is a hustler and is selling thing let me say on the street side, you selling things to make money. Number one, you're inside, you can't sell nothing. And number two, you're expected to be able to stock up on things, and you mightn't really have the money because you live in day to day. Let me face it. And from my experience in Jamaica, it have plenty of that. And from my experience there and anywhere else in the world is the same. The people who going through those things or living like that, plenty of them living in the same set of communities. So it started to make sense for me why you talking about that, because something had to happen. People had to eat, and you see when you hungry or when we hungry is one thing, but you see when you're children hungry, you go take some chances. You know? So when you're seeing what is happening in the community and you have a lockdown for that length of time, boy, and business places close, let me see. Because I could understand where he coming from in terms of crime going up. But boy, I just had to hope that this runs smooth. But again, Israeli Holiness responding to increasing numbers of COVID. And boy, listen, Jamaica is one place I see in where I think the population in general, okay, I'm not sure how much the people buying in to the fact that COVID has to be managed or managed in this way at all. Or if it's deadly at all, I don't know. Like, I don't know if you all were following this story with the guy. This fellow was in all white, a white top, a white short pants, and a very long white shoe. It's the longest white shoe I ever see. And this dude was basically arguing with the police and running them off his property because he planning a party the night. It looked like on a beach. Like, I'm not sure if it's Hellshire Beach, one of them beaches. And he basically telling the police, come off your property, freedom, they don't want no oppression and this and that and the other, and he have any party, and almost like COVID is propaganda. You know, there are a lot of people who don't believe that it is a cold and we should just live as normal, and who get the cold get it and who ain't get it ain't get. And then, of course, like everything else on the internet, by the next day I started to see images of him getting arrested and thing. And listen, this man wasn't putting on that mask for nothing. The man handcuffed and still explaining to people how Malcolm X had to fight and how Marcus Garvey fight. And for me, I trying to connect how this is a fight. Like, a lot of people talking about they're just trying to control us. And number one, I don't think I have so much I used to be in control now. Maybe I shouldn't come out and say that, but to be honest with you, I accept that there's a lot of control going on in my life right now. I not free. I asked Stacey, I have no freedom whatsoever. I did not know freedom before I get married. I have freedom now. I get in control like hell. People just tell me where to be, where to do. When I go somewhere, they say, where is? I get in control right through. So I don't know if it take COVID for people to realize that they're under people's thumb and they're under the influence. But I suppose they're your wife, right? So the children, them controlling you like hell. My son is running rings around. I tell all these stories here, so I know where it is. I don't know about this thing. And then, all right, let me say your loved ones could control you, right? I don't know if anybody accept that, but maybe you should. But government not being able to control you, or big corporation or big pharma, and like, I don't know about these arguments in a way, because I still feel I under significant control from big. Let me talk big corporations first. If you know me well enough, you know that I like brand name stuff. No, I don't put a caveat there, right? Because I want to song it like I am Love and Hip Hop or nothing. It's not Love and Hip Hop brand name I'm talking about. When I buy in something, I want to see what's the best version of that, what's built the best, what made the best something. Because I always find when I buy this, I don't want to have to buy back none. So you see me, when I buy in a computer, let me go and buy a Mac. Because it make out of iron. It dummy proof too. It's not as hard to figure out as Windows things. And when I buy it, it looking new and looking decent. For 5-6 years down the road, you still have a decent machine. Whereas when you go and you buy other laptop and thing plasticky, you ever see the laptop? Oh, sorry, this is your laptop, right? Look at your laptop, then look at your life, right? When you have your what is called that? The butt of your palm rest on anything to type. How much are all you on shining like hell, like you could see yourself in it? I don't like that. I like to see you have a solid brand name and a good reputation. I want to buy from you. Even when I don't know what is the brand name in the thing. I go and Google and find out who is the top guys, who doing this, who's the best people. So podcasting, when I go for microphone, I was Shaw microphone. I went on here a mic for podcasting the other day. It must be half the price or quarter the price of the mics I buy. But when I hear that, I was like, no. Give me the show. and are looking for ones to upgrade to. So, what the hell is the moral of that story? At the end of the day, the corporations have a lot of control over me when the men come out with that new product. Me and my money shall part soon. So corporations, and I just talking about from a marketing standpoint. Imagine when you start to consider now from where you're working and how much control they have over your time and how much you earn and where you could spend and where you could live and all them things. Beyond all that, all the people who say now when they get vaccinated, then they put in some kind of chip in you. Listen, the chip in your hand right now, you're listening to me through one of them chip. I think I've done a whole episode on this in terms of how much data we give up freely and willingly about our location, the things that we say. We allow Amazon Alexa, well, if you're like me, Alexa on all the time, home by you for your own convenience, but they gain more and more data points by listening to what you're saying, they're understanding your accent, who you're talking to, where you're spending your time. They're affecting where you go and where you spend your money, where you spend your time and all that. So it's like, I know what people mean when they say they don't want to be under control of the government and things. But I mean, going back to that thing in Jamaica is really mentally tough. Like, you know, the thing about it is I will be home. I like being home. So most weekends I home from Friday to Monday. Me leaving home at all for the weekend. But you see, when you tell me I can't leave home and you tell me midday Saturday all the way to Monday, like you all remember when they first lockdown around this time last year, what was the state? I remember being in Extra Foods in Price Plaza for about 2.5 to 3 hours before I could get out of there after the announcement of the lockdown. And I'm not sure what is this thing about the government announcing lockdowns, because there's the same thing Jamaica do. Like they announce it in advance, so you have 2 days. I remember Barbados did the same thing as well. And it caused a big rush. Is like, if the goal is to avoid people gathering like that, why not just announce the lockdown with immediate effect and then say, all right, today, this group of people could go to the grocery between this age and this age. Or people who license number ending 7, only all they could be on the road these days. Or something like that, you know what I mean? Instead of doing a thing where we say Saturday come in as a lockdown. So I can imagine what these supermarkets in Jamaica had looked like before the last weekend. And heading into this weekend, this by the time you're listening to this will be the first weekend of the lockdown. And then for Easter too. But I mean, I hope they get through. A lot of people in Jamaica do seem to be happy with it. I also saw Buju. You remember Buju comments about this COVID thing in the earlys. He is not pleased about this and all this control. They need to take back Jamaica is the thing you're hearing a lot. But I hope all in all it leads to a little more control over what happened with COVID is an inconvenience. I know it's going to be some drama too, because I remember seeing some little street parties and things happening in Jamaica when they had first lockdown. So let's see. I know the police have a job to do over there, but I just praying that it come true with better results and less strain on everybody where COVID is concerned. I know Easter in Jamaica is a big thing. It's just like Easter in Trinidad where hot cross buns, although I get my hands on some hot cross buns already. They say Friday gone was the Feast of St. Joseph. So like my mother and the squad decide that there is a little opportunity to take a little drink. So we get together and take a drink, and I was by Adams and I see some hot cross buns there already. There's 2 weeks out. You know, long time that would have never happened. Like before you even reach Palm Sunday and think it done a hot cross bun selling is a different time. But now I was able to get some hot cross buns by Adams and get me, I really like hot cross buns. I'm not saying that word a lot, but it's one of the things I look forward to every Easter. And I remember too, when I was a young fella, I had plenty to talk about and I shouldn't tell too much stories, but when I was a young fella in St. James, I remember my mother sending me for hot cross buns at time, but I might be still wanted in St. James. You know? And if anybody could remember St. James back in the day, Linda's is a relatively new bakery them times. And I'm modern and everything, just like now, you know, they always stood out for being a little more modern and up to date. But right next to Linda's on the corner there, by the corner on Nizam Street and the main road, had a bakery named Hearts. So my mother and them sent me for hot cross buns. And them days we in a house with at least 10 people living in the house. So when we go on to buy hot cross buns, it's 2-3 dozen hot cross buns we buy. And I remember going in Linda's, them of my partner, a man named Gerard from St. James. Me and Jer going in Linda's. And we go on and buy. The way Linda's used to work, you go and you tell them how much whatever you want, hops or whatever it is, and you collect your thing. and then you head by the car. I mean, it's still work that way up to now, if I'm not mistaken. You tell them where you want the hand you, and then you head by the cashier. Well, here now, the line real long. It's a different era too, because now you don't really see things like that but them days it was such a big thing and few big bakeries like that. And boy, me and Jer stand up in that line and young impatient about half or 45 minutes past any line. I said, Jer, let me go buy hats and buy these buns now, boy. It makes sense we lining up here, though. And he said, yeah, let me do that, boy. We walk across by hats. Order the buns and thing and go home. So I talk to Zachary about this all the time, being absent-minded. And I talk to him because that's exactly who I was. I reach home. I put on them buns and thing. I go on and play. My mother called me. She said, Corey, come. How we end up with so much of buns? How we have so much of hot cross bun here? 72 hot cross buns I end up home with. Well, I watching it now and I thinking, but the people in Hearts give me extra trying to figure out. Boy, you know what has happened? I walk out of Linda's with the people hot cross buns in my hand. Walk across by Hearts. So I ain't pay for the thing. Thief the buns like hell. Walk across by Hearts. Stand up with the buns in my hand. Line up for next must be 10, 15 minutes because them had line too. Buy the buns by Hearts. And I come home. It's just very small. I don't know if everybody's like that, but I was real absent-minded. But anyway, that's my hot cross bun story. So back to it. Like Jamaica is a big thing. Easter, a big thing over there too. Like they have what they call buns is like a spice bun. It closer to what we call sweet bread here. But that's the big thing for Easter. You have to get a little bun and cheese and them things. So I'm sure over the next week or two, all that going to sell out in all the groceries because especially with everybody home, your best bet is to have us close to your regular Easter routine or your little traditions and thing while you're home. So, I mean, press up for everybody over there. I hope you all get through this. It's a rough time with the lockdown. I hope, despite what people saying on social media, I hope it don't turn out to be nothing too rough or any violence or any kind of thing like that. You just had to rally through this and get through. I mean, most of the Caribbean countries getting better supported vaccines than us. It seemed like. So I hope that will soon come to an end. And yeah, I was talking about vaccines here too. I just read something saying Answer Machel was able to procure a bunch of vaccines. As I figured, I thought that eventually they would change it to not just focus on their staff. So it seems as though they ordered 351,000 doses. So I'm sure this staff will get vaccinated, which is great. But that leaves a lot more to go out to, I suppose, healthcare workers and the elderly and stuff. So salute to Answer Machel for doing the right thing. I think it's a great step in the right direction. And again, hopefully it's the beginning of seeing the back of this. And like I said, my knock on this government is not for sheltering us or how they manage it. If I have a knock on the government for this whole thing, is really communication. Because the communication still really very, very unclear what has happened with vaccines. When is the date we getting it by? That whole India thing seems so odd. Like I see in the was it the Newsday this week? I was seeing an article written about the conversations with Dr. Rowley. Well, I was going to name it in conversation, but I can't name it conversation again. Like everybody's using with conversation. But I see him talking about it, and this is his quote, right? It says, when you go to somebody asking for a gift, that is not a gift. You are begging. There was no arrangement for us here in TNT to vaccinate the population by begging. And he went into this thing about he not begging nobody for nothing. I mean, a part of me understand that, right? Because to be honest, I feel the same way. I don't like to ask people for nothing. I was just talking to Neola about that the other day. I don't like to ask for help. I rather try to figure things out on my own, to my own detriment. But to be honest, if operating on behalf of the company, for instance, if it's a work-related thing or is related to, I'd rather get the help I need because too many people dependent on what I do as a job for me to try to take it on myself and slow down the whole process. If it only affected me, well, maybe I might drag my feet on it. So I say that to say, if you're the prime minister of the country, you might have pride and you might have this and that, but I think it wasn't necessary to say that in the first place. But even when you vocalize it, my question is like, why? What would be the problem? Why you have to label it as begging, you should be willing to beg, beg, steal, or borrow. If it's, put it this way, like if my son hungry, I was saying this a little while ago. If I hungry, I could figure that out. But if my son hungry, me and above begging, I will beg and try to see who could help me. I reaching out to people. I was like, listen, I need something. I need help. I need support. I need something to eat for Zachary. You know what I mean? So I just find it was such an odd thing to go into this whole thing about you wouldn't beg and things. So to be honest with you, I want a leader there who will beg on my behalf. Yes, beg if you had to beg. We could forget that. Just now all this will be forgotten. And who would care that you ask once or twice or three times or when? I mean, sometimes you just have to be the bigger man in some situations, yes. But hopefully, I mean, week by week, we are solid here in waiting to see what happens with vaccines. And I want to know how you all feeling about it too. Like if you're going to rush to get vaccinated and thing. And I mean, I don't want to say anything disparaging about the vaccine. The reality is that I don't know enough. What I will say though is I have never gotten a flu shot and all those things. I always worry about them things, like something that had to make you feel a little sick before it make you feel better. But boy, when they bring here, I can't wait now. I just want this thing to be behind us and we could go back to some kind of normal living. Oh, we're nearly half hour in, we talk about nothing yet. So let me get to the agenda for the week, right? What's the start this week? Now, let me start here. Dennie's funeral home is back at it again. Just before I come to record here, see Dennie's have a man now stand up in a clear box. But, I mean, again, I can't remember which episode I talk about them. Salute to my guys. My guys are a real entrepreneurial spirit. But again, I had to say, well, don't do me that. Don't do me that. I can't wait to hear them interview because if people don't know, like Dennie's is a new funeral home in Trinidad who doing like people standing up and thing during the funeral. The first one we had covered on an earlier episode with a guy that carrying the back of and the man sit down on a throne and well, this man standing up straight up with a crown on his head and everything. You'll see just check for it on social media. Just look for Dennie's funeral home, you'll find it. And it's some young fellas, 20-something years. So the best part of these things when they come out is to hear young Dennie and them talk. I hope they interview them again and let them explain the process. And these men are real passionate about it. So salute to them. But I find they should give us some kind of public warning when these things happen. Tell society who not interested in that like myself, we're not a pass. Because I don't want to be driving nowhere and he end up in front of me doing that. Before I start this episode, I also saw... as we're on this topic already, that they say some sketchy details come out about Mr. Daniel pass away. Anybody who remember Daniels from back in the day, the school, and like back then, that was like leading edge as we talk about innovation. I remember when Daniel had a private school, but there was a thing he used to do for the July August boy, where they used to have a camp. And I never went there, but I always used to be envying people who go in Daniel camp because you're hearing so much about, like, they're getting to play computer games and there are real sports involved. So you're doing your schoolwork and things, but he had real extracurricular activities. I believe there was a place in Sinclair he was living. If he wasn't living there, and if the school wasn't there, that was his home where he was living. But again, later on in life, now he come and get more popular for involvement in and around live sport, where he was paid some sums of money to deliver some programs. And, of course, live sport never get off the ground. And I remember him in papers saying blatantly that he refused to pay back the money, not paying it back. And I guess if you're contractually obligated, he fulfilled it. Well, he was there to fulfill his part. And even though live sport didn't come about, it's really not his fault, I suppose. But I mean, either way, that's the end of that now. Any inquiry or investigation into that thing is done. No real details on it yet. The news they had just put out that Mr. Daniel passed away. So rest in peace to him and condolences to his family. All right, let me jump into the business of the week. The business of this week and the biggest story of the week really for me was seeing Machel Montano. Well, first the album launch, right? Maybe we should talk about the album first before we get into the rest of it. He launched an album called The Wedding. And yeah, The Wedding album. And it's an interesting thing for me, before we dive into that like a lot of soca artists don't do much albums anymore. And I mean, now there's a different era for music and things, but I always feel like an album is playing a different place. Largely because it's It's not just you putting out random songs like a whining song, a fet song, a road mad song, and that kind of thing. Although he does some of that, even when he puts out albums. But I find like a cohesive body of work around a theme is something that we know growing up with albums. So we could talk about some of our favorite albums. Like when I see Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, that stands out. And she did an interlude on Machel album as well, coincidentally. Or Buju had Till Shiloh, Inner Heights, Mr. Mention, Bounty Killer had My Experience. You remember when Machel did one with the Ecstatic, the Circus as well? I can't remember the name of that one, but that was one that stood out too. Like plenty songs on it was hits. And when I say around a theme, right? If you remember, you could take yourself back to when Buju did Till Shiloh. It was different for all of us because the last we had heard of Buju was Mr. Mention would be the album before that, if I'm not mistaken. There might be something in between both of them because there's a long gap we're talking about there. But Buju was known for not really slackness music, but more dancehall, dance, have a good time type of music. And then all of a sudden, Buju turned Rasta. Until Shiloh was really acceptance of Rastafari for him and coming out to the world. Maybe not the acceptance, but coming out and telling the world about his journey in Rastafari, Rastafarianism. And like it stood out, the songs, the way it was put together, the way it curated, is a whole different Buju, and you could have listened from beginning to end. And sometimes the biggest hits mightn't be your favorite song. That's one of the strange things about albums. Sometimes you listen to an album and the song that you hold on to because of the space you was in your life would be different than what the artist was pushing. And that's them can just bring it's bringing it closer to the artist as a fan. So I remember on that Till Shiloh album, if I'm not mistaken, there's a song called Love Sponge on that album. Up to today is one of my favorite Buju songs. And up to then, I would have been a real Bounty Killer fan first and foremost before anything else. But that Love Sponge, boy, I just like that song. Everything about from the rhythm to the way Buju delivered it and thing. And it wasn't the biggest song on the album by any means, but it's nice to see a soca artist doing a full, complete album. And you notice it launched long after Carnival that launched this week. I find it's a good opportunity for all artists to do something like this. So where you have, let me use an example of College Boy Jesse. You win the Soca Monarch. You went in there, as you say, because nobody didn't know who you was. So you went and get that to put you on the next level. Even after winning the Soca Monarch, a lot of people can't remember who he is or what the song was that he win with and them kind of thing. But to hear your perspective as an artist through an album where you have a body of work, it have so much different topics going on in the world right now. So Machel used his wedding and the whole theme of the thing is love and union and everything, and well put together piece of work. But let's say violence against women or political mischief in Trinidad or the beauty of Trinidad and Tobago as a country or whatever you decide to choose to work on an album on. I would love to hear like Pretty, Second Star, Voice, all of them who have their own concerts. I would love to hear an album from them just letting us know a little bit more about yourself or the way you feel about a topic that we might be passionate about. But having said all that, I listened to Machel whole album. And to be honest with you, it's one of the better albums I hear coming out of music in a long time. I say music in general because it's not a soca album. I wouldn't put it on like iTunes or Apple Music have it listed as reggae. I don't like to see that. I find it should be still listed as a soca artist because that's what he is. So the genre, but I guess we don't have a genre called soca on there yet. But hopefully we could come out of reggae and put soca as top on the list there at some point, you know. But from the opening of the album, I done impressed already because he went straight into a welcome or intro like we used to do. I remember we used to do interludes and them thing, and he had a welcome to the wedding thing song like Peter Minshall, song like what he would have done in the concert. I didn't go Machel Monday this year, so last year, but I'm sure people who went would say that is what they used to open it, and then a wedding song by him and Bankuli, a kind of African theme thing, real nice, and then he went into songs. So if you look at the theme of it, a lot of these songs is around love, is a wedding song, is Need You in My Life, I Love You, High Life, Slow Wine. We have some of these songs on there that we hear for a long time, right? Like High Life, I find is one of the best songs Machel ever do. He also, in rotation now, Play Harder is there. Machel, I was excited to see Machel and Cartel, but it's a song we know already. You back a girl from Trinidad, and she from Levante areas. We know them songs already, and a few more that we already in heavy rotation. But in terms of one song flowing into the next, is like an album you could actually sit down and listen to the whole thing. It really carrying you on a little bit of a journey. Some of the features on there, like people like Teddy Riley, who I mean, they have a song there called I Do with Teddy Riley. By any stretch is a love song, a more R&B type love vibe. I like it a lot. But the standout on the album for me is actually the second to last song, Machel Montano and Voice, One of a Kind. I find it's a real decent song. I hope it pick up, and them is the kind of songs make me miss the road. I'm sorry to go back into Carnival again, but it has some songs when you hear it, them songs will just bubble nice. So the road is like a 40-year-old pace too. So you could just chip and easy yourself in the shade of the truck and sip on wherever you're sipping on. Nice, you know what I mean? That Machel and Voice is a real good song. And he also has a song on there with Choppy. Good. And that's what, if I had to define Machel career with my fast self, like if I could define anything he ever do, is one of the things that I always notice him. Like he's kind of a bridge between some of the artists who are older now and some of the new artists. Because you notice he collaborates with every big Calypsonian or soca artist they had Machel collaborate with. He worked with Sparrow, he worked with Stalin, Nelson, Rose. I wasn't old man, but he a long time. So he worked with all these artists and take very, very classic songs and make into new classics. So for instance, Stalin had a song with Judgment Morning, I by the gate and I waiting, and I begging the master, give me a walk with Peter. He'd have some sinners coming, with them I go be dealing. For the things that they do me, I want to fix them personally. Peter wait, Peter looks Cecil Roach by the gate. Remember that? And Machel take from the theme of that song. He and Stalin went and do a song named Love Fire. Love Fire, blazing. Right now we come, spreading our love to every nation. Listen, so again, it's an adaptation of the song. Like you can't even call it a remix because it's not the same theme, but they take the fire theme from that song and make it into something. Or when Sparrow say, two white women traveling through Africa, and they find themselves in the hands of a cannibal headhunter. Everybody know that song, right? The Congo Man. And then Machel come and do with Sparrow, a new classic again. When last you hear about the Congo Man. That song, and I remember when that song come out, it wasn't the biggest song that year at all, but look how long that song lasts. That will play forever, in fact. So it's like he find a way to collaborate with the older artists, paying respect to what they're doing, but bringing a new version of what they're doing to the young crowd at the time. But he also have a way of working with very, very young artists. So when you look at a man like Choppy don't have 20 songs in heavy rotation or nothing. Choppy probably are closer to 5-6 songs. In heavy rotation, that is. But he have a style and a vibe, like Choppy's a star. You know what I mean? When you listen to him, and he young, but he making real 40-year-old music. Yes, when you see my Sail Away and think that my tempo rider. So it's like Machel, I'm not surprised to see somebody like Choppy on an album like this, because something that I found he's always done. He's always reach out to young artists, pull them in the camp and do songs with them. And I mean, like people watch it in two different ways, right? Is he sucking the youth, or is he giving the youth a platform to propel themselves? He go tell you the latter, right? Because he quick to say Farmer and Patrice is two artists who stay with him the longest. Now their careers solidified and will be lasting forever. We're looking forward to hearing what both of them have in any given season. So nice to see some of the youths on it, man. But when they get a chance taking the album really very decent. Forget all the hype and all that, right? Just give it a listen when you have some time, you're breezing or you're exercising or whatever it is you're doing. Like, try to do what we used to do a long time and listen from track 1 all the way to the end of the album. When last you do that? Try to this one and see it's decent. It's really a good body of work. But we had to talk about Machel week in full, right? Before I get to Akeem and Salty and them, he was on Clubhouse before that, and it was more, the Clubhouse thing was very organized. It was Machel, they had an interviewer there, and they asked him very specific questions, and he was answering those. And I mean, it was decent. I couldn't take in the whole thing because it sounded like one of them things where Machel had all the questions and they work out what they wanted to do. It sounded more like album promo than an interview then. And I find like these days you don't need to do a whole lot of that if you ask me. I guess coming up, making appearances in public is good because then it will bring awareness to your album. But you sitting down talking about an album that's coming out tomorrow, it's better you just talk about stuff that we're really interested in. And we go take in the album when it come out and give you our own reviews, because waste of time you're trying to explain the vibe and the songs and the space you was in, and let the music do the talking there. But after that, about 1 o'clock in the morning, past my bedtime, a man like me can't stay up so late. Machel did Tuesday night jump on Voice, Vibes with Voicey, which is the live days do on Instagram every Thursday night, right? Now, I don't know how much people who reacting to this interview really ever sit down and watch Vibes with Voicey, because it had no surprises there to me. Now, Vibes with Voicey and them is be action time, is be bacchanal, is be funny for the most part. And we'll see it when Akim and Salty there is a whole different vibe. So to think that that was going to be a real serious interview, maybe more people who upset about that interview should have gone and taken the interview on Clubhouse, where you could hear him drop gems all night and ask serious questions and everybody just applaud and laud for everything that he brings to the table. But that is not what was going to happen with first and foremost, like Instagram is a weird forum for that because it's so hard to make a conversation flow. But Machel was up to it. When he in the mood, I mean, he's a star. So when he in the mood to be around people and to talk to people and things, he hard to not listen to, boy. So he jumped on as expected, right? It went into wild mode. As a matter of fact, it was in wild mode before because Akim put on a whole Machel kind of performance. It's still on Voice Live now. So if you're on Instagram, go and check Voice and you can take in the whole thing. It worth the time. It worth like putting aside time to sit down and watch the whole thing kind of thing. But then man went into wild mode and Machel come in and like he was in wild vibes. So because the first thing Machel says, boy, it late and showing me wife pants like his time. And I was like, what? Machel spicy. But it showed that he know what he was coming on. He clearly see the live and thing before or hear about how it's go with them. So he was there for the bacchanal and there for the thing like men say is demon time. Wherever it was, he sung like he was down for it. And he was going through answering any question that they wanted to ask or they wanted answered. And you know, it make I don't think I ever see him in interviews really breaks in questions too much and things. So he went through. But what I like about him is he take the opportunity and the time to talk to them as a mentor. And I feel like he was talking to me, to be honest. At some point I was thinking like, yeah, you know, I had to step my game up. I had to get myself together because it's inspiring hearing somebody who's a real high achiever just tell their story and talk about themselves. And that's why I like these days to read a lot of autobiographies. I find it's a useful, like it's got some insight into very successful people, regardless of what they're successful in. So that was what that interview felt like. Like he was telling them about how to find the right sound, you know what I mean? Spending a really preparation and getting the work together and how much time he take before he put music out, perfecting it. They were saying that too. We're seeing him in a studio and how much work it goes into just making one song and really how much different iterations of the same song he goes through before he puts it out. And the boss say he had 200 songs put on, you know. Imagine that. Like you have artists who can make 200 songs published. So besides the songs that he have published, he have 200 songs put on waiting for release, trying to figure out when is the best time and to let it go and thing. And I find it real impressive. Like he was generally impressive and given a lot. The thing about it was Akim was drunk, as he usually is. I think every time you watch that Thursday night, and he and Salty used to have their own vibes. And when two of them drunk is one of the greatest things to see. I was glad Machel said it to her because Salty is a star. Salty hardly asks questions. But he's not the most talkative person. No. Salty is a strange character to me, yes. Salty had the most vibes when his mic man thing, but once he not micing or hyping up people, Salty's look a little borderline, yes. Like if he ain't exactly there, he'd always look all the way together now, and the dress code kind of weird, but he's a star. And I think he was just taking it in. Like he keeps saying himself, boy, I just focus, I just listening. Penny didn't really say much either or ask questions. He was really just soaking up all the knowledge. So for people who say, I've seen plenty memes going around saying, like if it's a bunch of fools who was interviewing Machel, yeah, the thing was funny. And the thing about it is those moments will always come out more than the others when they was laughing and playing the fool and thing. But for the most part, they let Machel talk. Or they had to fight to talk a few times and tell them, hey, let me finish my point. I'm saying something that valuable. But all in all, and he was nice of him to going on a forum like that he also didn't stop them from being themselves. Except that when he had something to say, he was like, listen, only listen, stop, calm down. Everybody listen. And that's what Elder had to do. You had to remember, Machel in this business since he's whole. Man said he started singing when he's 3 and 4 years old. When you're young, you'll be young, You had to remember, voice, salty, all of them, everybody in that thing there is young people. Them have a different vibe and energy and all that. And Machel would have that at that time too. So it's not like he had to look down on the youths and think for the men do a good job. It was a good interview. Machel is the elder and he do exactly what he has to do. Calm them youths down and talk to them and thing. But he also meet them in their space because he allowed them to do their bacchanal time and his Hakim questions. He asked the questions about whether he slapped Sherwin. The man said he never slapped Sherwin, he never slapped Umi. So get that out of the way one time. Them thing never happened, the man say. And he went on to address the Sonny Bling issue, which was a big issue last time when Iowa had this finally reached the Savannah and Sonny Bling had doubles in your channel or Barra in your channel and thing. And that was mashing up fets and thing. And it was good that Machel said, what stood out for me, like how up to date he is. Like he's seeing everything that's going around. My assumption would be Machel up in the bush, he didn't paying attention to nothing happening, but he seen what happened because he was saying that he knew the song. He see the clips with Sonny Bling, how much his song mashing up and thing, but he didn't feel like the show needed that. I can't really argue with that. You think about it. There's a hype moment and thing, yes, and probably one of the biggest moments of Machel career. But if you being of Sonny Bling career, but if you're being honest, Machel Monday don't need that. If you ever went any of the Machel Monday shows, it don't have too much going on already. You don't need no gimmicks. I will say though that they have plenty gimmicks there that they didn't need, but they put as a bigger part of the show than Sonny Bling. Like when them men had a year they did Chinese Laundry versus Signal to Noise, a kind of clash thing, and they play some dancehall. I find that was real good. I find that was the nostalgia of seeing Chinese Laundry. I don't know if anybody would have seen Laundry playing fets and playing them shows long time. It used to be a special thing when Laundry go on them turntables because he was one of the few sounds back then who had dub plates, and he used to play like real, like I remember he had a Super C dub plate, Chinese Laundry, a bad boy from Longina Trinidad. We used to look forward to hearing them things when he playing. And Signal to Noise was like that too. Signal to Noise had the little dubs and thing. It was vibes. So that was nice to see. But then every year after that, for maybe 2 or 3 years, the dancehall set keep getting bigger and bigger. Chinese Laundry coming back and play. I mean, we're glad to see it that one year, but we're going to come back and play the same dubs again, which is exactly what he do. And then they bring Manu Digital, and then it's Cutty Ranks and Super Cat. That was them thing is gimmicks too, Machel, man. They don't need that either. So to say that you're not giving Sonny Bling 2 minutes to do what he does do, but you're giving men a full half hour who not from here, who not contributing nothing to it, who, to be honest, I mean, not to say that the Jamaican artists, or no knock on them, the men could do their shows, but you know how it's go. Most Jamaican artists come here and perform in a fete, the fete is get flat. Because the type of music that is singing is not the best for when you're in fete mode. You know what I mean? One man who I see when Machel Monday and do real good is Shaggy. Because I think Shaggy have a better feel for our culture than some of the other artists because he just stick to songs where it have a little broke out in it still. So you say, jump and spread out, man. When you hear them singing a fete, you're liking yourself still, but not too much. 2, 3, and get back to the soca. But anyway, he says Sonny Bling, he ended up coming down to the point where he says Sonny Bling was real hurt by it, and it was a big moment for him, and Machel didn't feel it was necessary. He also told Iowa that it's not necessary and take that out. Iowa agree, and then Iowa brings Sonny Bling, and Machel say he see it backstage. I was glad Akeem and them asked him, we understand that you tell him, and we understand what you mean, but how you tell him? And Machel answered that as basically, boy, listen, when I do my show on adrenaline flowing and them thing, the way I tell him might be you know what I mean, is action, are talking for action. And you can understand that. The man in go mode in such a big show. So you had to say that, I mean, if you want to talk about blame and who at fault and thing, the man not wrong if you tell him to go on the stage because he told Iowa, who was the paid and invited performer there, not to do it. Iowa agree and then bring the man. Is Iowa who in the wrong? But it was real good to hear Machel say in the end, he say, if I know it would have hurt him so much and caused so much animosity and he not talking to me and thing, I would have let him go ahead. If I look back at it, I would have been the bigger man and let him do it. I find that was real good. Like, I was glad. So I was glad they asked him to how he changed so much. And he and the ignorant fella that we used to know a long time, Machel, had a hot and thing. And he and all say, the time he changed and he learned a lot more go. So it was, I hope that he and Sonny Blink could patch up. Boy, I don't like too much Arabs, I find man should get along. Yes, Sonny Blink should reach out to him and let him work out something, man. Because the thing about it is Machel, what they call me, pinnacle, right? Machel could put your career in place. But he could also do something. Anybody who could have that kind of power could also damage you. So I rather see, because Sonny Blink is a good one. I hope they work out the thing and Sonny could get that kind of highlights and showcase again. But the question of the day, which I was surprised that Aki, it come out of the blue, because none of the conversation was going along any of them lines. But Akeem and really chucking voice really, because he's saying voice feel he get the first woman on them thing. Asking Machel how he feel. No, if he ever cheat and if he still cheat. Now keep in mind this man started this interview home by him. I remember telling you he had the pants by the chair by him. And earlier in the interview they asked him how married life changed him and them kind of things. So I surprised to see they come back to that. And my first reaction was like, boy, he gonna shut down this whole thing. But the man basically answered, and that caused the most controversy in the week, because the man basically come out and say, listen, like the song say we vibrating on a high frequency. So you see what you talking about, they cheating and thing. He say them don't operate at a low level. He and his wife. He say what I say all the time. You don't own nobody. Nobody is not your property. You can't tell nobody else what to do. And he say, well, why? We can live in our life. We live a life where she have a husband and she in love me. He didn't say she in love him again, but he say if she want to have an ex-husband and he have an ex-wife and they are children, why four of them can raise children and live in love? And boy, like people went off on that. Also, all the nice little things the man say about your career and all the boy, that seemed to be the thing that stand out the most. So, but he also said, and I've seen a lot of people saying that once a man talking so that when you know again horn, the man also say what good for the goose, good for the gander about the same topic. In other words, if you are a woman, your wife a man and whatever. And like I was talking to Stacey about this because, you know what I mean, I trying to vibrate. But the whole point was, where you're going to get married for if you know that's how you're living. You're going into the church and get married. I understand that too, because if you ain't believe in them thing and the church and society, but when you could charge $300-400 for people to come to your wedding and have a big, how much, 10,000 people ceremony, and then also launch a whole album about a marriage, why not? The marriage is I ain't saying the marriage is a commercial venture, but there's a lot of commerce around the wedding and around the marriage and things. So that's good. I'm glad for them, man. Some people propose a good album. The man say he vibrates on a high frequency. Other plenty men trying to figure out how to vibrate on a high frequency, but they ain't want their wife vibrate at all. I know how I feel about that, boy. I know, boy, to be honest with you, because I always say you don't own nobody. People could do whatever it is they want. And I know I might be with Machel. Yes, I vibrate on a high frequency too. Yes, if you feel you want a next husband and them kind of thing. My house only built for 3 people too, So if you bring anybody else, I go to leave. But I go pass back through and things still, man. We vibrate on a high frequency. And it's so funny, like after the midst of that, everybody making an uproar about this thing about Machel. The man say, it's a frequency vibes. The people who are following for the most of the advice online. Going through real time. A whole thing where they had to explain how much woman they had and thing. Only like following this thing with Derek Jackson. And maybe it's true, Cassie. I see some of these people come up here because I think one of the times I went on her podcast, we were talking about an excellent one who want to tell woman, but when to look for man, what kind of man to look for. What the man name again? Kevin something again. What's his name, boy? Something Kevin. or Kevin something, a little short man. Always talking about woman looking for man with too much money and boys listen to these men talk. It's better to just vibrate on a high frequency like Machel and tell the world where it really is, because now Derek Jackson doing the politician thing, holding his wife hand to explain that he had a woman and he remember Will Smith and the entanglement thing, just so Derek Jackson every minute he going back live again to explain this, that, and the third. It's something else. But the vex with Machel when he come out and say, listen, you are a woman, you are a man, I a woman, we vibrating. You know what I mean? It's a high frequency business. Well, and as a soca artist, so I find Machel giving up to the culture. Anyhow, talking about soca artists, let me move off of that because I'm trying to put this far into the episode before Stacey. Usually by this time she ain't listening no more, so hopefully she can hear that. But as we talking soca artists, I see a little odd thing happening. I was really watching my favorite artist, Ding Dong, Instagram. And so, like, he went in licensing office with a little bust-up jeans. You know what I mean? Your jeans distressed and thing. And I find the man, when you look at it, go on his Instagram, you'll see the little video. Apparently, government offices in Trinidad always have this issue with no slippers, no short pants, no, what you call them, spaghetti strap top. You have to be... Apparently, damaged jeans is one of them things too. Like, you can't go there with no cuts and no rough up jeans, apparently. So he going outside there. Can't get into the way you have to do. These days, if you know what happened, because of COVID, they had to make an appointment to go in licensing office. So it's not like you could just come back tomorrow. So somebody's outside licensing office renting a pants, like a velour pants to pull over your jeans. If it busts up, boy, that little things sum up plenty of Trinidad did for me. Yes, plenty of the things we deal with, and a bunch of the reasons why they say Trinidad backward and we in advancing in certain areas, like what I was talking about WASA last week, places like licensing, is for reasons just like this. You see, on a much, much larger scale, it have people in this country who rent in pants. And if the system was to adjust and say, boy, listen, come as you are, render your heart and not your garment, you come in, do you have to do and leave. If they had no rule like no bust-up pants, that pants rental business is over. So on a much larger scale, there are plenty businesses like that. Like they are wrong because of the corruption or how slow some systems work. So it's not in their best interest to make the systems work no faster or take out the corruption so it unclog the system. When the system clog it working for them. But I really didn't know. I don't remember that being an issue at all. Like cut up jeans and thing. I guess it's who enforcing the rules, but it reached a point where a man could make a whole business to rent pants and thing, boy. And the more you look, like you see it coming up on Instagram every now and again, somebody putting something. I mean, that's such a kind of nasty habit. I wouldn't do that. I go to take the appointment and next time, because I go and put our pants over my, well, a man, no, I ain't like that too much, but. And then too, Ding Dong as celebrity started. I don't know why they just let Ding Dong do what he had to do. And then forget what the man sing for the season. No, they shouldn't tell Ding Dong nothing for a whole year. And before we get out the entertainment stuff, let me just talk about verses again. We talked about it last week and we was celebrating really Swiss Beats and Timbaland signing up with Triller or getting bought out by Triller and giving equity to all the artists who involved. Salute again for that. But this weekend they had Ghostface versus Raekwon. I'd admit I didn't really watch it. I need time to sit down and watch it. And I was never the biggest Wu-Tang fan ever. So it's not like I'm going to know a bunch of the music that there. But from the little bit of clips I hear and stuff, it really nice to see artists reach our older age and start celebrating, because I hear a clip from the end of it where they basically saying, take care of yourselves, you know what I mean? At one point, Ghostface say, go by the doctor, check out, just to know what you have. You ain't matter take no medication, just know what you have. It's real interesting to hear how the men change and evolve during life. I understand Young Dirty Bastard was there and thing too, so I would take it in. And I might have been doing some Googles for some music, but that idea of celebrating the legends will always be a great one. And I see for 420, they're planning Redman versus Method Man. Like they release a whole what you want to call that, a schedule or a roster of all the verses coming up. So there's one change from moving to Triller already, because they never used to see what coming too far ahead. You just used to hear rumors and then you hear one drop. So it seems as though they have some structure in place for who they put in, and they also announced that they will have Earth, Wind and Fire versus Isley Brothers. That's going to be our next big one. 420 is Method Man versus Redman. You know the 420 thing, right? So you had to get a stash lineup and taking. I definitely ain't missing that one. Redman and Method Man going to be vibes for sure. But that Isley Brothers and Earth, Wind and Fire, that is another showdown between giants, and just watching them in the same room celebrating one another will be interesting. I'm interested to hear them talk about the songs that those two groups sing and how it affects one another. Like which songs they like from each other and all that. And I knew so little about Earth, Wind and Fire. I remember thinking Earth, Wind and Fire was our white rock band. If you ask me about them, I would have pictured them like how Aerosmith is look. As a grown man, I find out Earth, Wind and Fire black. But now that we know that, I think it's going to be a nice little celebration of... It will be some vibes. Who's starting the local verses, boy? To do a little celebration for some of our artists. Like, I remember seeing Super Blue versus Ronnie McIntosh and some version of it, Iowa versus KMC in a version. I wonder if them get a little equity in Thriller too. I ain't sure. Maybe. Now, disclaimer up front, right? This is not a sports podcast. But again, one of the biggest stories this week was the sports, right? I mean... Salute to West Indies. West Indies continuing to come along and thing, but not them. More news of TTFA, and not TTFA necessarily, but Soca Warriors in the preparation for playing our first game against Guyana in the Dominican Republic. The team done there and ready to roll already. I mean, I wonder if that's showing on TV. I hope it's showing on TV. I definitely go and take that in. I don't miss Soca Warriors games, but I trying to keep up to date now with what is happening and how the team coming along. I see pictures of like Kevin Cornwall make a big set of shouldn't I say big? Kevin Cornwall made a lot of runs for the West Indies. His first 50, I think it was his first 50 in a test match and all that, and first 50 on that new grounds in Antigua. And I don't know how Kevin Cornwall doing this for the West Indies and playing for Soca Warriors at the same time. It's the greatest thing. Like Kevin Cornwall he's the Bo Jackson of the Caribbean. I've never seen anything like it before because he's making a Warriors cameo too. But I see all them things going on and trying to follow what is happening and how Cornwall doing on his side. Only for a story to break about Terry Fenwick headbutting Shaun Fuentes. Now, Shaun Fuentes is TTFA and TTFF media officer like since back in the day. And I know I met him before in doing work with TTFF. And Shaun Fuentes is one of the most meek people you'll ever. Like, I never even see him talk hard. He talks soft. He just going about doing his work and thing. So, I trying to figure out what happened in this story. And the thing come out, he ain't seeing no video, he ain't hearing nothing. It's like, what going on? So, the story apparently is that Fenwick went to do a press conference. Maybe the last press conference before they leave to go and... to head to camp in Dominican Republic. And when he walk in, he see Lasana Liebert from Wild 868, who he have a problem with being in. And let me just say he have a problem with, who plenty people in football have issues with. Because he's a man, when you see him write about Trinidad and Tobago football, like I was reading an article today from coming out of Wild 868, and it was basically talking about Jamal Shabazz's reaction to this headbutting of Shaun Fuentes, right? And in the midst of the article, after having said everything that Jamal Shabazz said, which he said, of course, he's disappointed in it. As the head coach of the national team, you use the Machel of the setup, use the pinnacle. So you had to carry yourself with better conduct, and it's very, very disappointing to see that. I paraphrasing, of course, but that's what Shabazz was saying basically. But in the midst of writing that, he put Jamal Shabazz was an insurrectionist in 1990. So I don't know if the idea behind writing that at that point in time was to say he complained about man butting people, but he shoots up the whole country. Or if it's just to say, well, full disclosure, this is who he is. I'm not sure. But I guess with a writing style like that and saying, because nothing there, no lie, is all facts. But when your writing style is like that, it could come across like you're taking a jab at me in the midst of the thing. You remember when Tyson was at an interview on a TV station in Canada? And in the midst of the interview, the thing going good is an upbeat morning show kind of vibe. Tyson promoting whatever he was working on at the time. and all of a sudden the guy say, well, yeah, well, when he was on them rape charges, well, Tyson started cuss one time and threatened the fella get frightened to it because if Mike decide to swing, there's a horse of a different color. But it's one of them things. It's like you're doing a regular interview talking about the man comes to promote things. It's like, okay, why you needed to bring up? It's not that the rape thing wasn't true. It's like why you needed to bring up that at that point in time to say that. So when I was reading that, I was thinking the same thing. It's like, okay, he's an insurrectionist. It's like that is way up in the midst of this article that's about Fuentes and thing. But I know. So plenty of people in football have issues with him. You know, if you know these stories with Jack Warner and ask him mother and thing, you know the history of Lasana Liebert and the administration. But I don't know in particular what is the issue that Fenwick have with Liebert. I don't know. But whatever it was, the man get vexed when he see him there. He say he ain't doing no press conference if this man in the press conference and all them thing. And I guess Shaun is the media man, so Shaun had to know who come in press conference and thing. And whatever it is happen, he get but. Now, again, I know Shaun Fuentes to be a meek little, he no aggressive dude from what I see. But I ain't expecting him to take no headbutt. You see, if you headbutt me and allegedly all kind of spitting and thing involved, me ain't going through that, you know. It's ring dong fight. If you spit on me, one of we had to go. All of we can live to tell a story. We gonna fight. But apparently he ain't thing are going on, you know, in Machel mode now. I go on Shaun Fuentes' Instagram. He's showing a picture. I guess basically to say nothing happened to him. Now that's a new thing in this day and age, right? Because a long time when you fight and thing, a big problem you used to have is if you get a black eye and thing, you had to hear about that for a while, around school and around your partners on the block and thing. So when you're done fight and you come out on the block and your face looking smooth, it look like you win the fight now. So I remember when you're showing smooth face and thing, you're saying, yeah, but he didn't do me nothing. Watch his face and watch my face to see who win. So when I see Shaun Fuentes, his face looking smooth, so I say, well, right, well, Fenwick face had to be bent up. He's supposed to hit me. Apparently nothing like that happened. No other physical response was had. And within a day, everybody says a kumbaya and everybody make up and everybody happy and everything. So apparently the camp is happy. And for some reason, it seems as though that this particular iteration of the Soca Warriors, their PR person is Gary Griffith. I don't know what is the connection. I suppose his son playing with the team. I don't know if his son make the national team or what part of the setup he is. But Gary Griffith apparently is in and around training sessions, coming in defense of the TTFA, coming in defense of the team, coming in defense of, what is my name? Terry Fenwick. And it's a kind of odd thing overall. Like I see an article coming up where Gary Griffith basically saying anybody who not supporting Fenwick is out of touch and out of date. And in other words, they don't know football. And I think to myself, wait, you're the Minister of National Security. You were the Minister of National Security, sorry, police commissioner now. And you throwing all your weight behind Fuentes, behind Terry Fenwick, who in my mind should never be national. He should be nowhere in the national setup. Like when you talk that, like my boy Al is building, man, good coach. And yeah, he's a good coach, but you let him go and coach in his country where he come from. He should be deported from this country. I hear people who say this is what Trinidad need, and none of us don't know that until we start to play matches. Because so far, we just getting licks right through and playing us at a pro league team. Let me see what Guyana's saying when we go on to play these kind of teams to see if we still getting licks from side like Guyana. And then I go make my judgment on whether he's a good coach or not. I don't know enough about football to know if he's a good coach or not. What I do know is that when he was Jablote coach, after conceding a goal against W Connection, a Brazilian midfielder by the name of Jefferson da Silva Goulart ran off the field. He was running between the two benches. Looking like he running. He was taunt. I think when you look back at it, he was taunting Jablote bench, to be honest. But he was running between the two benches. Must he tell Fenwick something, but on the way to going and take the fans behind the bench, right? Fenwick stick out an elbow or clothesline or something and hit the man to face. Boom. Man land flat on the back. You are the coach of the team who the man now score against. The man give you some talk. You elbow. You use a gangster. You elbow down the man. It leads to a brawl happening. And this man get fined $24,000. Right? That's $2,000 a month if you're counting, right? If you look at it over a year. And but get banned 10 games for that. And leave from that to become the national coach in this country. It's one of the greatest things I ever see. And Trinidad is a special place. Because while on the next side of it, we talking about having qualified coaches down here who you hear Dwight York talk about it all the time. You're not getting opportunities as a black coach from a third world country in the biggest leagues. You ain't seeing your way. Coaches getting fired and they bringing back older coaches who coach at the end of every season. You could find some coaches coming back to the Premier League just to help a team stay up or whatever it might be. But man like York and they who qualified and getting the experience cannot get jobs like those in a place like England. But a man from England could come here, do something like this as a coach of a team and still end up coaching in national outfit. And not just coaching the national team, coaching in national team with plenty support behind him, including the commissioner of police. Boy, I wonder if he was commissioner of police when Fenwick had done that, if he would have seated that Fenwick was arrested for assault. But then again, that might depend on if he have a son playing in it. Yeah, it is true. Because if your son playing there, Carly, how you go tell a man something if your son playing there? You have to support that guy, right? So, it's what it is. Again, eager to see that game. I want to see how the team looking. I will always support that squad. I want to see how Fat Man looking too with Cornwall, you know what I mean? Cornwall making runs, so maybe he could score some goals when he come out there for we and thing, you know what I mean? So, I remember what it felt like to lose to Guyana. Don't do that again. Let me go over there and get 3 points and look real solid. I see we have a few players coming in. A few players really didn't make it in. Like, I believe we playing that game without Molino and without Jovan Jones. Two of the people who was really scoring in the last campaign. So let's see who step up. Let's see how it looking. I can't remember if this is Levi Garcia again or not, but I'm eager for that. I'm excited. A little Soca Warriors football. Now, staying on the local front, they have another story going around here that bothered me a lot. And I shy away from the story a little bit last week, but now, I mean, I had to talk about it because no matter what has happened, how to put it, boy, it's sounding like something not right. So, for those of you who don't know this story, let me read from The Guardian, right? It's Sasha Wilson. Plans to celebrate his son's 3rd birthday next month was shattered after little Romelu Amani Drakes drowned in a pool at his speech therapy school in Couva on Tuesday. Now his heartbroken father, Shaun Drakes, 31, is demanding answers. I want justice. I want a proper something put in place properly to find out what really went on. You can't just tell me my son died just so. I need to know how he died, lamented Drakes at his Princestown home yesterday. Now again, it's unimaginable the kind of grief you face if you had to bury a child. That ain't right here. You know, your expectation is that you're going to outlive your parents. And as a parent myself, I think I leaving my son here. Boy, listen, that ain't no easy thing. But, you know, the story went on to talk about the fact that on a adjoining compound, they have a piece of plywood blocking it out and the child squeezed through there and went and you know, the thing about this is they're saying that another child is telling them, a 6-year-old child is explaining to them where the child was. Like, he went through, did he see him squeezing through there? And I'm thinking, but where's his supervision? Where's the plan? What all he do on a daily basis? How a 2-year-old, now a 2-year-old, I trying to think of how adventurous a 2-year-old could be. And as toddlers, we all know how it's go when you're home with a toddler and you hear the place quiet. It's mayhem. All hell could break loose. They ain't really at the age they could be adventurous and they could do things, but they ain't really at the age where they understand consequences, responsibility, what go happen if I do this. They're exploring. All the more reason for you to take a more, you know what I mean? You have to keep an eye on them. What is all you doing? All you have the children there in the school 3 days a week. And it's that kind of freedom they have where they could go to our next compound. So think about that, right? If you could squeeze through a plywood to go somewhere, then you could walk out the road. You could just walk out the street and go. It's like I remember when my son was newborn still, very, very small. And I'm not sure if you all remember the story about Sharon's daycare in Woodbrook. And when a child drowned, my son was in that daycare when that happened. And even that, I found that story to be so odd. It's so strange, right? Something don't add up right with them things, you know. Now, I was saying before that you must hear somebody, if they're drowning in a pool, it sounds like a noisy thing, but I was actually reading something today that said drowning could be very quick and very, very silent. So I telling myself, well, maybe, you know, they just in here, the child in the pool. Because at first I thinking that toddler getting into a pool, that noise, them going to be, but they're saying that, hey, you fall into water that you can't swim or you can't stand up. It could be quick. But I remember that Sharon story, and I'm feeling similar with this. And maybe it's just my own mind not being able to wrap my mind around this, I suppose. But it's like, okay, when you all carried each other, and Sharon's was on by Republic, close to the street of the Republic Bank in Woodbrook. So they used to bring a bus and they take the children to the swim class in YMCA. If you know where YMCA pool is, the pool is like, as you walk in, is one of the first things you will see. Anywhere you're on the compound, you could see that pool or hear people playing in the pool and stuff. And they basically found a little girl at the bottom of the pool. It was the strangest thing. And I thinking, but when you go in and you do them pool, like long time when we go in the pool and think it's have a buddy system, they used to blow the whistle, you go and you hold the person's hand. But they claim that when they were changing clothes and organizing to head back, she must stray away and went and, I mean, maybe I shouldn't have them kind of theories because it's a little trend too. Sometimes a little child tries to peep over the edge a kind of way and then fall in and it happen fast. But I can imagine what a fellow going through. And as you hear more about the story here, and that the place that doing this, they're not registered as a school. But we had to clean up where them things concerned. But you can't be, number one, let me talk to the business owner. You're running an institution. Go and get your thing registered now, man. Because somebody who's like a health and safety person or whoever they might send to see your premises and things, they might be able to help you with them things and tell you, listen, save yourself and save the people who come in here. Block off this place properly because a child go pass through there. It's have a pool in the back, they're dangerous. The certification and them things, they're meaningful, they mean something. We can't just flout that and start the business. And I mean, come on. I remember another thing with Zachary too. When he was small, we now moved to San Fernando, so we're looking for daycares. And I was saying the name of Sharon's because I think Sharon's closed down and thing. I don't want to call the name of this daycare. It was a popular daycare in South and preschool or whatever you call them thing. And I go on there to carry. Now, what I will say about Sharon's is the organized approach they have to seeing about children and thing in Sharon's was admirable. That's why I was so surprised to hear this little girl drunk in YMCA. Sad. But I carry Zachary in this place, but this time he might be about 2 years old. And they have them separate from the bigger children, of course. So you carrying them in is more a nursery kind of vibe. Like all they're doing is playing whole day and nap time and whatsoever. And boy, listen. One evening, and there was something I was never comfortable with. The entrance to the school part of the building was one door. I don't want to give away too much. Now, it was one door where you could enter to the school part. But then when you walk down the hill slightly, it have a next door to enter the daycare part. I was always uncomfortable with that because you could walk off the street and walk straight up to that door and walk in. It wasn't locked. Boy, listen, people just do some kind of thing with people children. The door ain't locked. I thinking, all right, let me just say somebody who ain't mentally stable, just busting the, you know what I mean? There's so many different things that can happen. Like, why do that? But anyway, when you walk in, you have a little area with the small children and things you see, and separate from the newborns, you have the toddlers and things running around in that area. I remember going after work to pick up Zachary a day. And as I walk and I look in, like, you remember wrestling back in, like we used to say wrestling? When you're watching wrestling and you see it's a Royal Rumble and it's 20-something wrestlers in the ring and everybody think it had one where they used to put a ladder in the middle of the ring and they put the belt up there. They say everybody, when you climb up that ladder, if you could get the belt, you win. And it's all out brawl. Well, if you can remember that's why I see when I went in that daycare. The girl who, I mean, she couldn't be more than 19, 20 years old. She changing one of the newborns, one of the little ones now. And she trying to tell them, stop here now. A full fight is going on, man. Swinging like Tyson at other youth, man. I said, well, what the hell is this? But my blood boy, I was looking to see where's Zachary. But again, He's so absent-minded, like he didn't realize fight going on. He didn't realize I reach in the corner watching something with some letters and thing. But the institutions like those make you realize, like, come on, we have to take these things a little more seriously. You have all them trends side with one little girl changing pampers and things. She could never control all of them. And I can't help but feel like it's a situation like this in this school where this child drunk too. Is like, dude, come on. You're not watching them. You don't know where they are at all times. It's another one of them things where if you look back through the papers and thing over time, or look back, I skip papers like a real old man. But if you look back at stories over time, you realize that this is an issue that we have, You remember when somebody had left their child in Edinburgh. I want to say it's John Michael, the keeper for Trinidad team. I know it was a football player who was playing with Soccer Warriors. Or was it one of them athletics people? One of them had come and their child was dead in a thing in Edinburgh. One of them same preschool things. So it's something that recurring here. Every now and again you see a story like this, and it's another area where we just had to do better as a society. You had to make sure you certified and doing things the right way if you want to run your business. On top of that, as parents, we had to take a little more precaution. We had to put on our foot where these things concern. Not saying that this can happen in a certified place, but at least when you're carrying your children or you're putting them somewhere, make sure that the people have the right qualifications, they're certified in the right way and thing, and make sure you're putting your child, your prized possession, if you call it possession. You make sure you're putting them somewhere that's safe and worthy, because, I mean, who could imagine what it feels like to have to face this, All right, so you know how to get Crossfire to help them out of that, right?
Oh gosh, I'm say, me fretting up about the hair I'm flexing. I'm say, me frowning up how me hair is wearing. Whoa. Every day, them a cry me down, but I just don't have fun. All me want is the music all night long.
Yeah, tell me generally, back in I mean? I can't take the heaviness for too long, I need to hear a lead when you hear what to just calm my soul before we move on. But we move on. And there was another story last week, other than that one, where I wasn't sure how to treat with it. I'm still trying to figure out what is exactly happening. So that story was Jenny's on the boulevard, where Jenny was complaining, basically, and saying that her restaurant getting harassed. She out there, she doing her thing, she following all the COVID guidelines and regulations, but a bunch of police heavily armed come, and of course Gary Griffith, when they ask him about that, he's like, all right, next time I'll send the police with macaroni pie. But I remember in that article, they were saying that she was saying that police came in and they were asking people what they're drinking and intimidating her patrons and all that. Only to find out Jenny's heavy liquor, Jenny serving in teacup. I find it's a genius idea. Why not? What's the risk? Like, if we in a restaurant and we're drinking alcohol, they're allowed to sell alcohol, we're gonna congregate because what? We're gonna just hug up people on the next table or something? If COVID is the reason that restaurants up to today can't sell alcohol, I know how much restaurant they go wait for to close down before they change that now, but Jenny's take a chance in the little teacup thing, and apparently it didn't work. People vex with that too. So, strange enough, the day after that, you see in a report saying Jenny's get shoot up. Like somebody shoot up the building, and she said this is the second or third time it happened. And they eventually, by the end of the week, they say they caught somebody in custody for the shooting overall. So, I mean, I hope everybody's safe where that involved, because, I mean, I was getting kicks off for it, really. Serving the liquor in a teacup, it kind of makes sense. It'll keep your business bubbling. And plenty places serving alcohol without a teacup. Them serving in normal glass and with normal wine glass. And think, ask Stacey what she wants. People shouldn't sell alcohol. So, and I'm sure other people saying the same and having that same experience, where it has some places that you go and alcohol selling like normal. So I don't know what it is they have against Jenny's, or if the right money in pass to the right people or in the right time or whatever it is. But that, I don't know how that connected to the restaurant just getting some random bullets. But to be honest, if places getting random bullets, maybe I shouldn't stay on that topic too long. Let me talk about Kanye West. Congratulations and salute to Kanye West, who Forbes came out and said was the wealthiest black person in America at 6.6 billion. Since then, they're starting to get murkier because all of a sudden they come back with their own figures and saying that that 6.6 is more like 1.3. I ain't sure how they reached there, but Kanye been saying he's the richest black person for a long time, and he's done, some of them shoes really ugly. Some of them bad. Like some of them when they just started off, and some of the early ones was bad, but some of them real ugly, boy. But I guess he's an influencer. He's the ultimate influencer because no matter how ugly them shoes get, they have a bunch of people who wearing them. I guess he's sending them for all these celebrities to wear them. They're ugly like hell. And that's the ones before the spiderweb looking one. They're big and chunky, and that's the thing I used to cry if they put me in them thing long time. I could never pay money for that now. But you find that once those influencers and the A-list celebrities wearing them, best believe it go reach Trinidad. They seen people in the Yeezys playing mass and thing last time, and now them other ugly ones you're seeing all over the place. And I mean, I'm sure we go see them spiderweb looking ones, and somebody feel like they're on top of their game when they're wearing that. But he no doubt contributed a lot to Adidas. He did the same thing with Nike. He did the same thing with Louis Vuitton before, with Virgil. So Kanye West deserves everything he gets. I mean, he being worth 6.6 billion probably means soon after him being the richest black person in the States, Kim Kardashian going to be the highest paid divorce settlement ever. That coming soon too. But glad for him, man, and I'm glad that, when you look at the way what he did with his money, you're seeing a lot of diversification because he into the fashion and his own line, his partnership with Adidas, his partnership with Gap, heavy stocks and shares and you know what I mean? So he well invested, well diversified, and on top of the game, you know what I mean? They say so much things about him, and he have his ways when he go on his rant and he Donald Trumping it out and everything, everybody vexed with him, but that is a hell of an accomplishment overall. And it's like they like to say in the States, it's black excellence. And I saw a lot of black excellence in the Grammys too, like Jay-Z and Beyonce, like them buy out the Grammys because she was celebrated, of course. His wife, that is. But I don't know if y'all watch it, but like they never coming off camera. Meg Thee Stallion is now the biggest, by Grammy standard, she's one of the biggest artists of all time. I don't know about Meg. I couldn't tell you a song that she sing, but salute to all of them involved, man. That was real, real good. And it's good to see that level of black excellence and black people performing at the highest levels. Before we run, there's one more thing I want to talk about. Because we had talked about that Meghan and Harry thing. I saw a follow of that story reaching into the US media, of course. And it was this awkward argument going on one of them morning shows. I don't know what's the name of them morning shows. With Sharon Osbourne and Cheryl Underwood. Just Google it, right? And find the clip where she was talking about it. Because Sharon Osbourne and Piers Morgan is friends, it seems. Both of them from England. And they seem to have been discussing it on the show. But Sharon Osbourne started getting emotional because she didn't like how they're trying to put a racist badge or taint her as being racist, and she's saying she's the furthest from that. She was real angry and upset. And then Cheryl Underwood, when they came back from the break, she was trying to explain that, listen, I wasn't trying to say you racist, but I want you to understand why we feel that Piers Morgan racist. And the thing about it is, for us to get past some of these things, I find we had to be able to have the discussion openly. I was real impressed by Cheryl Underwood, because she could have come out attacking and come out and double down on everything that was said. But instead, she kind of calmed down and tried to talk to her. In other words, she talking to her knowing, like, listen, I understand that you're upset. And I just want to explain to you what we were trying to say and all that. But Sharon Osbourne was too upset to even listen to any of that. And of course, Piers Morgan had to run and tweet in support of Sharon and why they should think and they should apologize to Sharon and all that. Boy, listen. The faster we listen to one another in this world is the faster we will really get somewhere. Everybody seems to still be real caught up with who right and who wrong and who to blame and who had the answer for this, that, and the third. Well, things have so little value to me. If you just spend a little more time learning about each other and genuinely listening to learn, don't listen to respond, like listen to learn, understand where she coming from, even if you don't agree. If I telling you a Piers Morgan racist, what the hell, like just wake up and I feeling like bringing down somebody's character because it's your friend? But yeah, ask, well, why you say that? What will make it? And let me explain. And when I explain, and don't try to justify it through your mind because that's your friend. Listen to what I'm genuinely saying. I ain't mad. I ain't going, you know what I mean? I ain't just making up thing about somebody just to defame their character. But we have a way like you dig your heels down into a topic so much, especially when the topic contentious, things like racism and religion and gender, and we get so caught up with it overall. And before I go, I want to leave everybody with a little bit of a challenge this week. When you have some time, right? Look up for me something called an implicit association test. It's done by Harvard University, right? IAT. The implicit association test is one that, as the name suggests, they're trying to see what things you put together. So in other words, by default, what kind of associations you make in your mind. And they do this test based on things like gender equality or race and so on, right? And I want to put this to you. When you get a chance, check it out and do the actual test. The test is free online. You can just click through and do the test. And I want to put it to you that you are much more racist than you think. When you do that, and you're much more gender biased than you think. Our biases are inherent, like they are part of us. I'm not saying that it had to stay that way, or to be biased against one thing don't mean that you hate the other thing. It's just you're conditioning, you're learning what you see in your household, the fears that you have, your insecurities, your ignorance, all of that balled up into one. It don't mean I hate somebody because I relate closer to something else or somebody else. But what I will say is that if you're not willing to assess your own biases or observe your own biases, then you cannot fix them or you cannot adjust them or realize that, hey, by default, I kind of biased against women in an employment situation. So when I'm doing interviews, I want to make sure I have women with me on my panel so that to help with my own shortcoming or my own weaknesses or areas where I may need help or support. So do that for me now. Implicit association test. That's something we'll come back to. This damn podcast going to be a class. But it's something we'll come back to at some point because I really want to discuss that. I think it will be helpful if people in Trinidad accept that nothing wrong with being closer to people who look closer to you or look like you. It is, and it's a lot more natural than we think, because for as long as we treat it like something wrong, we will get defensive like how Sharon Osbourne gets, and everybody will clam up and nobody will ever talk about it, and 50, 60 years we will be still here doing the same thing. So implicit association test, right, class? Go and do that for me and come back, do your homework, and we'll talk about it the next time. Last but not least, I really want to talk and thank all the local models, celebrities, Instagram people, and so on, all these girls. I want to thank you all for being on OnlyFans. I just want to leave it there for today. I want to thank you all for setting up a nice little OnlyFans page and helping us through this quarantine. Thank you. And that's it for me. I'll talk to you guys next week.